Hello, and welcome to the digital launch of the Eric Williams Memorial Lecture in its new home, the John L. Warfield Center for African and African American Studies at the University of Texas at Austin. My name is Jennifer Wilkes, and I have the honor of serving as director of the Warfield Center. Established at Florida International University in 1999, the Eric Williams Memorial Lecture honors the late Dr. Eric Williams, scholar, statesman, and head of the government of Trinidad and Tobago from 1956 until his death in 1981. Among numerous books, Williams authored Capitalism and Slavery, published in 1944, the landmark study that has been translated into 10 languages and that is still widely read today. In the University of North Carolina Press edition of Capitalism and Slavery, Colin Palmer, late of Princeton University, describes the book as follows, quote, "Few modern historical works have enjoyed the enduring intellectual impact and appeal of Eric Williams's Capitalism and Slavery. It is a work of conceptual brilliance, intellectually mature, bold, incisive, and immensely provocative. Its publication marked an important watershed in the historiography of the Caribbean, but its ramifications extended beyond the Caribbean. Williams established the centrality of African slavery and the slave trade to the English economy. His conclusions may be rejected, but no serious scholar can avoid confronting the important questions the book poses," end quote. In a similar vein, Duke University professor William Darity has stated that with Capitalism and Slavery, Williams, quote, "managed to produce a work that now has to be considered central in the historiography of slavery and abolition," end quote. The Eric Williams Memorial Lecture continues in this legacy by hosting conversations about global activism and art from Williams's time to the present. The series has moved to UT Austin with the generous support of co-founders Erica Williams-Connell and Dr. Carol Boyce Davies in collaboration with Warfield Center affiliates, Drs. Lorraine Liu and Minka Makalani. Daughter of the series' namesake, Williams-Connell is the founding curator of the Eric Williams Memorial Collection at the University of the West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago. Boyce Davies was a professor of African Diaspora Studies and English at Florida International University and is currently Frank H.T. Rhodes Professor of Humane Letters in the College of Arts and Sciences and Professor of Africana Studies and English at Cornell University. The Warfield Center is marking the occasion by curating a collection of interviews with Williams-Connell, Boyce Davies, and previous lecture speakers. These conversations are streaming in conjunction with a digital exhibition celebrating Eric Williams, co-coordinated between the Eric Williams Memorial Collection and UT's Black Diaspora Archive. We are thrilled to conclude the digital launch with Calypso as an art form of resistance, a conversation between calypsonian Dr. Hollis, Chalkdust, Liverpool, and Dr. Meagan Sylvester. Thank you to everyone who has contributed their time and labor to this project, especially Warfield Center Events Coordinator, Justice Madden, and thank you for joining us. We look forward to celebrating the inaugural UT-based Eric Williams Memorial Lecture next spring.
So good morning, everyone. We are here today because we are celebrating the launch of the Eric Williams Memorial Lecture. Now today, we have Professor Hollis Liverpool, and I am Meagan Sylvester, and we're both coming from Trinidad and Tobago. And what we're going to be discussing today is a celebration of the work of Calypso and the reflections that Professor Liverpool would definitely have to share with us regarding Eric Williams and his interaction with that type of scholarship. So Professor Liverpool, I want to start off today by asking you about Calypso as an art form of resistance. because I think it's important for us to interrogate the importance of what Calypso means and how it has been operationalized in terms of our understanding of resistance as part of our culture in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, thank you very, very much, and thanks for having me this morning. There's so many things about the Calypso that I have to think deeply to see what to say now. But the Calypso is not just the music of Trinidad and Tobago, but over the years I have found through my travels, and I tell people that the Calypso is the music of the Caribbean. Because when you'll find sometimes more Calypso being played in the Virgin Islands, for example, in St. Croix and American colonies of the US Virgin Islands, Antigua, Grenada, etc. So the Calypso is, especially the British Caribbean, the English-speaking Caribbean, you'll get the Calypso very, very prominent. And this Calypso, in terms of resistance, if you look back into history, history shows that from coming here, enslaved Africans here, that all of them used the Calypso. They brought the enslaved Africans, brought all the basics in the Calypso, including the rhythm patterns, etc. And but we write the Calypso in a 2/2 tempo, and we have added to it, we have changed it to a certain extent, but the Calypso remains, in terms of resistance especially, the music that our African brothers played and sang, so that it was the politics of the enslaved people, and they used it just like how today we use the sun in Cuba and different places, so that the Calypso was always tied up with enslavement and tied in with the politics that continued through the centuries right up to today in this 21st century and 22nd century coming to come, I'm sure. So the Calypso is our music, the music of resistance. In fact, when I did my master's thesis at the University of West Indies, my master's thesis was Calypso and resistance. Calypso and resistance.
So you make the connections there, yes.
You can make the connections on my master's thesis in case you want to get them to read a little more. It's there. And I showed in my thesis that right through the centuries, the Calypsonians have been singing the Calypso. And even when the Calypso 10 started, in the 20th century, in the mid-20th century, all the Calypsonians, their focus was on the way of life of people. And including that way of life, you get the resistance. One of the Calypsos I remember that I can tell you, and one of the outstanding areas is the elections in Trinidad, our first election, 1924, our first national election. And would you believe that we started in 1924, Calypsonians started, I should say, a whole new theme in Calypso, in that they began to sing on the elections. And the Calypso of that day was, let me give you an idea of the Calypso of that day. Give you an idea. They were singing 1924 elections. Young man, who you voting for? Cipriani. Young man, who you voting for? Cipriani. We were talking about Captain Cipriani, who was the local man fighting the elections against an Englishman called Major Ross. And right away, they were appealing on the people of Trinidad and Tobago, calling upon them to support a local person, Cipriani, to take over the country. That is since 1924. So you see, right through resistance, and the election Calypso, or election type Calypsos were born. So it's fine.
Intertwined deeply. And thank you for sharing that little ditty, that little bit of music, as we get into the historical appreciation of the Calypso art form and its link to resistance. And now we want to turn to look at this immediate pre-independence. I know that you just spoke about the mid-20th century, speaking about the 20s, but we want to go to kind of like the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. And we're talking now about the role of the Calypso lyric in terms of transforming, acting as this transformative pattern to really take the society to another level as we prepare for a different part of our history.
Well, it's good to know that 30s and 40s and 50s, the Calypso went outside. You know, Calypsonians traveled and they carried the Calypso in Europe, especially London and the States, and in terms of the States, to Brooklyn and Canada, wherever they went. And I found it also in, as far as Africa, in West Africa, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, they all taken up the calypso. They gave birth to the high life music in Ghana. And by taking it outside, they began to sing about, not just about Trinidad and Tobago, but they began to sing about all what's happening in the world and what's happening in the world that has impacted our society in the Caribbean. So they kept, so all the themes, or everything that's happening in the world, there's a little calypso for it. In fact, there's an area called the Calypso Craze in the 50s, where all in Houston and all the different parts of America, the calypso went. So the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, the calypsonians are singing about areas that impacted on the life of Trinidad. Elections, presidents, prime ministers, war, World War I, World War II, the calypsos and the war, if I can remember some of them, I'll tell you right away. The song on Hitler and the song on England. Of course, they praised England for fighting against Hitler and so on. So that the calypsos of the 30s and the 40s are actually singing about all the changes in society and changes in the morals of the people. So the calypsonian is given to the world and to Trinidadians areas. They are leaders of the society, and things like moral. My mind goes there. You have to forgive me because whenever I'm talking, I think of something. I try to sing it, but imagine in terms of morals, we open a grocery, a new grocery is opened up, and people go into the grocery, and people are stealing from the grocery because it's the first time we see a cash and carry grocery. And yes, it's stealing, and the calypsonians are singing. And they are singing, one morning at high-low, I went to buy beans and potatoes. This morning at high-low, I went to buy beans and potatoes. A young woman walked inside of the grocery, in front everybody, pick up a cold piece of chicken chest and promptly concealed it under her dress. She take this cold piece of chicken chest, she choose out the best. Mama, yo, this ice cold box of chicken chest was from under her nylon dress. You have seen morals. So
Indeed.
Thou shalt not steal.
Indeed.
And so many people, I have seen in my life, many people who have learned from calypsonians. In fact, would you believe this? That for every commandment of God, you can get 10, 20 calypsos. So thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And that's what they're doing in the 50s and the 40s, right up to the 60s especially. And they're doing all these things. So the calypso is not just resistance now, but it's morals. It is asking the government for some things. It is begging for poor people. It is singing against poverty and everything that affects the life of our people. We have it in the calypso.
Indeed, and thank you again, Professor Liverpool, for another little song. those little interludes really add to our understanding of the lyric and how important calypso was to the time and the space.
Obviously, it's a little slow. It's not like calypso today with the raging at the pace. It's very slow because the lyrics are very important. Yeah?
Exactly, and it's about understanding the history through the lyric. And the important thing that I want to get to is to really look at that pre-independence period, because as we know that there would have been an independence calypso competition, which was very dominant. It was an important juncture in the whole trajectory of calypso and what it means. As it took us pre-independence, and then it took us now into this new era of our society. Could you speak a little bit about that calypso competition, but also what was happening a little before and how that led into that calypso competition of 1960?
Well, 1960 was independence. And
right.
before independence, we are singing about, in politics, about preparing for independence.
Right.
And they're singing for independence. People want to know why Jamaica run from the Federation. Of course, they are the West Indian Federation, just before independence. If you want to know why Jamaica run from the Federation, Jamaica have a right to speak she mind. That is my opinion. But if you believe in democracy, You'll agree with me if they know they didn't want federation. And they know they don't like to become as one. Tell the doctor you're not in favor. Don't behave like a blasted traitor. This is no time to say you are federating no more. So you see the parents, they're crying down Jamaica for destroying the federation and blaming Jamaica. And then we are preparing for our own independence. And the songs of that period praise Dr. Williams, who has now coming in, praise the idea that we are seeking independence. So before independence and the pre-independence movement, they are talking about all the areas like Cipriani and Uriah Butler and all the leaders of our country. And they are showing all the pitfalls and all the stumbles and all the challenges that they have. So they are actually preparing us for independence. That period, therefore, was very, very political on the Calypso because they are all looking forward to Trinidad becoming independent. But besides independence, they are singing about the opposition. In fact, Valentino sang that the Calypsonians are the only opposition. They are singing about the opposition, all the political opposition, and they are continuing attacking England and saying things about England and the war. But the main thing is that the country is being prepared and we are looking forward to independence. So that's why we have in 1962, we had the independence competition. So they are looking forward to independence. And in the independence competition, of course, Sparrow won the independence, no, Bryna won the independence competition. Sparrow came second. Sparrow came second. And the whole story behind it. Because,
Indeed.
Sparrow and many persons believe that Sparrow was only placed second because he was some Grenadian, he was a Grenadian.
Right.
And Bryna was a Trinidadian. Obviously, some people say they was a little biased, but some of the most beautiful calypsos you can get is in that independence competition. So it just shows that every step in our life, political and otherwise, the Calypsonians are following them and singing calypso, both political and economic.
Exactly. And so that is a great segue into the next question, which really focuses on your recollection, Professor Liverpool, of memorable songs written and sung about the PNM administration as run by Eric Williams, so that we get a sense of the role of the Prime Minister of the country and how the Calypsonians put that reality of those times into the Calypso lyrics. Can you share that with us?
Well, I have been, what should I just say? I won't say esteemed, but I have been the person probably that most people say that sang so many calypsos on Eric Williams. Eric Williams came to this country. Eric Williams took over this country. Eric Williams became the premier and then the prime minister after independence, etc. So we followed Eric Williams, etc. Most people had looked forward to seeing Eric Williams. He was supposed to be the fifth brightest man in the world and all these things. But I attacked him and sang other things. But I didn't hate him. I didn't dislike him, as many people believe. And this is good to know that what I did was to look at his policies and see how his policies affected our people. And the Calypsonians, we sing openly. We don't. Good Calypsonians are not afraid to say anything in Calypso. And I follow that trend of singing out and saying things that we didn't like. In fact, I had a Calypso saying that when we attack you, we don't want doctor. We don't want doctor. We don't want we country come soon. You know, we don't want our country come like other countries who are facing problems and challenges, etc. So that's the main thing for singing it. So I have sung multiple calypsos on Dr. Williams, which I can't remember now, but I can tell you where to find them. And one of the big calypsos I sang was, and which most people know, is Afraid Carl. I sang Afraid Carl. Carl is one of his ministers, and Carl had brought in the act, which we felt would have silenced us, etc. In a way, Public Order Act. And I sang an Afraid Carl. His name was Carl Hudson Phillips, and I sang out against him and sang out against what he was doing. You know? Like. Afraid Carl, afraid Carl. And I sang out about what all what he was doing in the country, you know, like my friends and them don't like me. They want police jail all shocky for the things they want me sing about. The government might jail my snout. They want me to sing and say, move the labas from and have the whole stench installed right inside you, right of Whitehall at the office. So I sang out all these things because Carl had brought in the public order act. He was one of my biggest calypsos. And many people of the island still tell me that it's one of my biggest calypsos and one of the most important because it was a lot of satire in the calypso. Right. Because I was singing that afraid Carl, and yet I was saying, I was showing in the song that I ain't afraid him, etc. And then another good calypso that I sang was I complained about the PNM. The PNM women in the party had complained about Dr. Williams about me, and I sang a calypso. You got to find a key. PNM women against me, they report me to defeat. Last year after the Diaspora, FP Chalky gone too far. How come this young man tell Trinidad that somebody in Whitehall mad? Just take him to court for this. Let us take him to court for this. And Eric Williams said, leave him alone, women. Eric Williams, tell them it's time you ladies know more about Calypso. Yeah. When the calypsonian sing, the profits he bring, and his cash coming for the treasury and the party, and some for me. He going to tie his throat with a rope, let him fly his flag. His life will win, Ruby Phoenix, let the jackass sing. So I called upon the women, I couldn't tell the women, let me sing, and he said, let the jackass sing because that's a term he had used, etc. So I used that to bring the calypso. There are many others I sang. There's one called Clear Your Name, calling upon him to clear his name because when he dies, and when we all die, his history is going to live after him, and therefore he must ensure that his name is cleared. So I had one called Clear Your Name. There's another one called Eric Williams Dead. When he died, a lot of people were saying he had died. So I was showing them the changes between Eric Williams and then. And I was saying that what's happening in the country shows that Eric Williams is dead. So there are many, many songs of Eric Williams. I'll probably afterwards I can give you the names of them. You can find them on YouTube and so on, the music. But every year I used to sing a song on Eric Williams. But for this little talk here, it's good to know that Eric Williams looked forward to my songs. Because he had a servant, you know, one of his cooks, and she used to tell me how the first thing he would ask is, what Chalkdust singing? She would get the record and try it for him. And he used to enjoy the record. And he had very much a lot of confidence in me because he used to send for me. Right. He actually sent for me and to ask me to tell me things, but in fact, he was trying to pick them out to see what I was singing, etc. You know? Because my song went a long way. So in terms of the songs, even though to some people I was attacking him, but he, Eric Williams, he looked forward to hear what I was saying because to a large extent, the Calypsonian is the voice of the people. And so to a large extent, he was trying to understand what was happening in the Calypso tent, what was happening in the Calypso circles in our shows, and what are the songs that I was singing. And many, many times you send for me, like once you sent for me for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes to ask me a question, and then he says, thank you very much, and I go on. So he was actually trying to find out the impact of the Calypso. So those are some of the songs I sang on him. I can't remember the first one. Afraid Carl is one of the most important ones. I can't find the key right now. I wish I could find the key to give you. Let me see. Let me try F. Like my friends and them don't like me. They want police all jockey. Things they want me sing about. The government go jail my snout. They want me to sing and say, move the lovers from the highway and have the whole century stall right inside the heart of Whitehall. But not me, afraid he jail me like he jail Rex Nassau. They want me sing about when Bades died. Kamal Muhammad break down and cry, but afraid. They say a young minister was found in a hotel with a call girl in town, but I know nothing about that. Afraid the Sedition Act. See, I just passed the Sedition Act. So
Exactly.
I was actually singing things that happened in the country and yet saying afraid. That was the major songwriter. Thanks a lot.
And you know, it's interesting that you're doing this retrospective of the songs that were sung and the importance of the calypso lyric and the relationship that you really had with Eric Williams. And you know what we wonder as well, because we always speak about the political calypso. And I'm wondering if you can share with us other themes that would have come out. Perhaps even in the discussions that you would have had with Eric Williams, but other themes that would have happened, that you would have written about rather, in the calypsos that really touched on political issues taking place.
Well, you know, political issues are so important that because political issues go right across the calypso one. Sometimes the theme is not political, but you always find a little line or two from politics to draw, because politics affects nearly everything you do. The politics affect, you know, even the singing, even the carnival development committee and all these areas that I sang about, the politics go right across them. But I try to sing on things or areas or events that affected Trinidadians, like the Black Power revolts, like the Black Power revolt of the 70s, like the little revolutions that we had, the so-called confrontation that we had. I sang on one of them, sang on Black Power, trying to show everyone that the answer, Doctor, the answer to solve Black Power, to Black Power in the States and Black Power in Trinidad. I try to sing on those things to see how that Black Power affected us. And then I try to sing, telling people, giving people ideas of how to vote, etc. I cannot tell them how to vote, but I can give you an idea of what's happening in the country in terms of voting. And I try to sing in such a way that people outside of Trinidad, especially New Yorkers, would understand what is happening in the country. So I would sing on crime. I would sing on where the country going politically. I would sing on a little more, etc. And so that it might not be just politics, but little political upheavals, etc. I would sing on these things. So that although people classify me many times as a political singer, but I didn't only sing on politics. I sang on. In fact, I sang songs for people to dance and all. You know, I have many calypsos and entertainment, just pure entertainment. You know, Shango vision, Shango man giving a Shango man seeing certain things that I didn't see, and I would sing on things like that, etc. Things that are happening like smut, why smut? Calling up on calypso not to sing smut because of the younger ones and have respect for the younger one. Education, little calypso on education, the meaning of education, etc. Things like that. So I try to be all over the place, trying to give people an understanding of how important this art form is. So I sang that. So it was not just politics, but many songs. Some of them I can't remember. But if I can only remember the themes, I will probably sing, you know, one or two. What makes a politician, for example? The boy asking his father, what are the qualifications for a politician? And the answer is, can you lie? Can you tell lies? And etc. and all these things.
All right. Okay.
What makes a Trinidadian? I was thinking about humor of Trinidadians, etc., and things like that, all these things. So there are lots of areas. Probably I remember some of them afterwards.
Yeah, because that is also important. Because, you know, in having these conversations with young people, they recognize in their mind, they think of social commentary, they think about political commentary, and they think about humor as the three, you know, headline areas in terms of the themes that we sing about in Calypso. And it's important for them to understand, listen, Calypso means so many things to so many people. As you spoke about the contribution that the Calypsonians made overseas in the 1950s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It was so important, you know, the role that they played in that time. And then some of them who would have come back and the role they would have played in our society. That Calypso lyric abroad and at home remains dominant to speak to the history.
And then when we go outside, we travel to the islands. And when we travel to the islands, we didn't sing when we travel to the islands anything on Eric Williams,
Right.
or anything on politics. We sang generally.
Right.
And then we took some of the problems happening in the Virgin Islands or in Antigua or in St. Vincent and Grenada, and we sang on those problems or those challenges, you know, so that so the Calypso outside, we never pulled down Trinidad outside. Never did that. We never tried to be a disservice to Trinidad, but we tried to sing on things that built Trinidad. Trinidad was noted for, you know, etc. For example, if I can give you an idea, I remember going to UWI, University of West Indies, and doing sociology. Imagine I writing sociology exam, final exam, and the first question on the paper is right here you will find your identity. Chalkdust, my Calypso is right here. You'll find your identity. Chalkdust. Come in. I am answering my own question. You know.
What's a thing?
Right here you will find your identity. The young people color crazy, fatted and shaky. They want to know more of India. Some want to go back Africa. I want them to start thinking and stop this damn race searching. For though we are of black pigment, yet culturally, we are different. Because they have no roti over in North India. They don't know about curry and Coachella. They do not say oysters by their crazy or dance or what kind of pussy. And Africans cannot beat steel pan. Most of them never see a pan. And only you, the Trinidadian, know about Phobia, man. So that is right here you will find your identity. Believe me, it's right here you will find your identity. That's the exam question.
Exactly.
I sang on all different kind of topics.
Yes. Yes. And that becomes important for us to understand as we speak about the issue of identity and who we are. And many times we talk about Calypso being history, and that all of our stories are told and encapsulated within the Calypso lyric. Yeah. And what is important for us to even consider as well is we're just coming, you know, we're in the middle rather of a pandemic. We're coming off of Carnival being cancelled for this particular year, 2021. And we're looking at the discussion that persons were having about Calypso and Carnival being intertwined, that Calypso is Carnival music. So if you don't have Carnival, do you have Calypso? And we have to consider that. What do you think about that, Professor Liverpool?
Well, one of the things that is good about the pandemic, you know, it is showing us, as I told the class, that there are so many other areas that we can do in Carnival. And the pandemic has helped to show people who are probably being quiet, and people who couldn't get in a Calypso tent, and people who didn't get into a competition. They have done their own thing. They have done their own thing behind the walls and use virtual Calypso and virtual song, what they call like a museum-like song. I like the word virtual. And they are singing that now. So it brought out that aspect of Carnival. It also brought out another aspect of Carnival, the history behind Carnival, in that some people have gone into shows, like portal shows, to see what was the masquerade in 1939, what are the bands in 1940, what did they focus on, how did the people in masqueraders dress in the 50s and 60s, what themes they sang in. So a lot of people have gone into history to see what was happening in the past. And it also brings back another aspect of the Calypso. I see a lot of firms and children taking part in the Calypso, and young people trying to compose now and learning the measurements in Calypso. So the pandemic probably, that may be a good thing, because it has brought out another aspect of the Calypso. Where before a guy had to fight to get into a Calypso tent to sing, to hear his songs, and to have his songs aired and broadcasted. Today, many persons are staying in their bedrooms and making a song and get broadcasted. They are flipped over the Calypso tent. And they get airing through the pandemic. So maybe there's some good, and we are learning. And things are happening, and we are learning more and more from the Calypso.
And you know, an interesting point that you just mentioned about the Calypso tent. This is 2021, and according to documentation, though there are many different sources, the first Calypso tent was in 1921, though we know that there are, stories that others existed prior to that. But the point about it is that when we are charting that historical record, we say 1921 to 2021, and we talk about this celebration of 100 years of the Calypso tent. Sure. As we speak about that and we understand what has happened as a result of the pandemic, do you think that coming out of this pandemic, the Calypso tent will continue to be strong and have that strength?
Let me welcome you then to a webinar that's coming up. UTT, our university and our academy, we are having a webinar just now. I can't remember what date it is, but sometime in April, we are having this 1921 to 2021. We are having the Calypso tent. For many persons who don't know what the Calypso tent is, many persons know what the Calypso tent is, a place where people go and sing, or Calypso is a song. But the Calypso tent is more than that, because the Calypso tent registers changes in the art form from the minor key, for example, from the minor key to the major key, changes in the music from the guitar to the saxophone and the trombone, changes in the themes of the calypsonian, changes in the structure of the Calypso from 8 lines to 16 lines, and then 24 lines, and then the verse and chorus, changes in the structure, changes in the people singing, Indians coming in and Portuguese coming in, etc. All those are recorded in the Calypso tent. And above all, changes in the political structure of the country. All that's registered in the Calypso tent. So we are celebrating all of that in 2021. So the Calypso tent is more than that. Changes, for example, if to understand the Calypso tent was a place where the governor came. All governors, all the colonial governors came into the Calypso tent. Why? To understand the people, to visit the people. And we have pictures of Sir Hubert Rance. My name is Hollis, Liverpool, Hollis. Hollis, he was the governor, Hollis, Lord Hollis. And my mother named me after him. My mother said she wanted me to be a governor, and she named me after Lord Hollis. Okay. So the Calypso tent is a very, very important institution in Trinidad and Tobago. And above all, would you believe that the Calypso tent has spread from Trinidad to all the islands? In fact, they have Calypso tents in Brooklyn, Calypso tents in London, and so on, where we would go. So we are celebrating that this year, the 100th anniversary of the Calypso tent. And I hope you join the webinar.
Indeed, indeed. I fully intend to. And it becomes important for us to continue to speak about the Calypso lyric and the Calypso art form as we look forward, even beyond the pandemic, but as we just look forward and we continue to chart the course of the Calypso art form. Where do you see Calypso going beyond 2021?
When I began to sing Calypso in 1967, officially, like I was singing Calypso long before that, when I began, and we had the first, and I joined the first national Calypso team competition, and I was selected in the semi-final in 1967. 24 Calypsonians reached the semi-finalists, 24. The last time I took part in the Calypso competition, and we had about 60-something Calypsonians at that time. The last time I took part in the Calypso competition, 457 Calypsonians sang and face the judges. 437. And then when I began singing Calypso in 67, 6 persons went to the final. Today, the last competition, you get 10 and 12 persons going to the final. So the Calypso has not only extended itself among more and more Calypsonians, but above all, what companies, Angostura, all the business companies are having Calypso competitions and having Calypsonian competitions. Worse, all the schools are having Calypso competitions and Calypsonians, young Calypsonians. And many of them drop out and many of them go on to become senior Calypsonians. In fact, NJAC had a program called Pioneer Competition, under 11 pioneers. Then NJAC had the junior competition. Then they had the Young Kings competition. And finally, these Calypsonians over 20 and 24. What does all this tell you is that I am seeing the future Calypso just extended. People are saying the Calypso dead. A lot of people are saying the Calypso dead. I didn't say that. I said I can't remember how it started, but I'm saying that the Calypso is not dead. The Calypso, I so sick in the hospital. In other words, I'm saying that the Calypso is in hospital, but it's not dead. And the future for Calypso, to answer your question, is that more and more persons are taking part in Calypso. More and more companies are taking part in Calypso. More and more monies are being given to Calypsonians. The history of the Calypso show that when early competitions, they got little torchlight prizes. Some of them got no prizes. In 1962, independence, Dr. Williams put his hand in his pocket and gave the Calypsonians $100 again, $100 as a prize, $100, $100. We have reached now prices of 2 million. So that Calypso, the future of the Calypso, is more and more younger people and more people are going to be singing Calypso and impacting the country, you know. So that it's not going to die because you can't kill the Calypso, but it's going to be extended to more and more people and more children, because so many children. My only problem with them this year is that I have, in the future, I'm seeing a lot of children singing Calypso, but not composing. Right. By not composing, many of them don't understand the art form. In fact, one of them who won the competition, a king or a queen, told me that she's not composing. She's not composing, and she doesn't want to compose, and she doesn't want to learn to compose because she has somebody to compose for her. My parents said, I don't like that attitude because we don't want Calypsonians who just can't compose. We don't want them to be singing other people's thoughts. Right. We want them to be singing their own and seeing life, compose their own. Because as I tell my students now, it will reach a stage probably in the future, when you quote a Calypsonian, you're not quoting the Calypsonian, you're quoting the writer of the Calypso. Indeed. And that's the only pitfall I'm seeing. But certainly, to answer your question, Calypso will be in good hands, and more people will be singing the art.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Professor Liverpool. I think that was a nice way to bring this interview to an end, because it's so important for us to understand, one, the importance of the Calypso lyric, the identity of the Calypso lyric and the art form for Trinidad and Tobago, the region and the world, because we know that Calypsonians and the art form itself touched the entire world. And it's important to know that the content of Calypsos, though political, social, and humorous, can focus on any topic, because it's speaking about our lives and it's speaking about telling our story and what our history is. And so daily, the Calypso art form can speak to everything that's taking place. And we know that as we look forward beyond 2021, as we celebrate the 100th year of the Calypso tent in this year, 2021, that the Calypso still has promise. The Calypso is not dead, because we have the junior Calypso competition that is so vibrant, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago with the primary and secondary school students, which is leading to the senior competition. It tells us that indeed Calypso is alive and it will continue for generations. So thanks again, Professor Liverpool.
And forgive me, do forgive me, because I've composed so many calypsos that I forget them, you know. But, I didn't. I'm so busy that I didn't think about enough about this. This will respond, else I would have given you some more calypsos and put them. But when I find when the calypso come to me, I have to find the key. I have to find the tune. I have to find the.
Yes, indeed.
So you have to forgive me for staggering, etc. on the way. You know.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right, because I think you gave us enough food, you know, to consider, you know, to go, as you indicated, they're available via YouTube. And so anyone listening to this lecture can then go and say, okay, I heard this song, or I heard this lyric. Let me check back. Let me look into the archives. Let me see what was happening at the time. What is it that Professor Liverpool was speaking about? What did Calypsonian Chalkdust tell us in this lecture? And it becomes important for us to have that retrospective. So thanks again. You really provided a very fantastic landscape for us to now consider the Calypso art form in a whole new way.
Thanks a million. Thanks a million.
Okay, so thanks again. And so this has been a celebration of the Eric Williams Memorial Lecture Series at the John L.Warfield Center at the University of Texas at Austin. My name is Meagan Sylvester, and I thank you.
God bless, man.